In this video, I'm going to show you my workspace and also explain what is the layer concept. As you can see now, we are inside of Photoshop. If this is your very first time opening Photoshop, this is what it's going to look like. And we can either create a new file or we can open an existing file. So what we're going to do here, we are just going to load in our image, click open. I already made a render from Blender. So this is, I just called layer concept example, and it's saved as TIFF file. So I just gonna double click it, and then the image is gonna load in. Give it a second. Now you see what's inside of Photoshop. Every single tool you see over here and also the panel down here this is what the workspace looks like. Based on the different purpose of using Photoshop, you can use a different layout or a different workspace. Go to the Windows, you can see here workspace, and there's a couple of different ones. The essential one is called default. If you're working Photoshop for painting, you can click that. You will see a lot of color palette and different brushes and everything. It's just optimized for your best purpose. Okay, so based on what you need, so you can just do whatever you need to do for the workspace. However, you can see here, I go to the workspace, you will see there's a Wenbo Zhao retouching workspace. So if I click that, and this is my default workspace looks like. As you can see here, the tools on the left hand side is being moved to the right. So you can literally just grab the top part. You can just place whatever you want inside of Photoshop. The reason I put everything on the right hand side is simply because when I'm doing retouching with my pen display, everything is going to be on my one side. So I don't need to kind of go back to touch the tool and in order to use. And for advanced user or retouchers, they work professionally, they're using all the shortcuts. So they don't even touch these unless there's some special tools that we need to do the changes. So this is what the workspace looks like. All right. If you're interested to use my retouching space, you just need to load in my workspace file into your Photoshop. So how can you do this? If you're in the Windows, you're gonna hit this PC, or you can hit this start with E key, then you are going to have a window pop out. So what you're going to do, you're going to go to the disk C. Usually this is where you install your program. Go to C, and then you are going to go to the users. All right. So sometimes you are change your username for the computer, and I just made it default, so it's still called user. You maybe call your own PC's name. So double click that, and then we're gonna go to the app data. And some of you guys, if you notice that this app data is a little bit grayed out, simply because this one is being hidden. So if you don't see this folder, which means if you go to the view tab, as you can see here, I already checked hidden items, which means I want to see the hidden folders right here. Watch what's happening here. If I'm unchecked that, it will be gone. Okay, that's why you probably don't see this folder, but making sure to check that under the view tab. So next, we're gonna go to the app data. Then we're gonna go to the Romain folder, and then let's scrolling down. Then we're gonna go to the Adobe, double click, and select the version of your Photoshop. You can see here, the current version I'm using is the Adobe 2021. Then we are going to select the 2021 setting, double click, and then you will see there's a folder, it's called Workspace, and double click. You're going to have my space setup file, and you're going to copy this file into your computer. This workspace setting file will be provided within the supply file within this course. You should be able to find it easily. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the layer concept. While you might heard about layers, you might not. The layers in the Blender is a little bit different compared to Photoshop. For the layer concept, the way how I understand it is I was using the overhead projector. Some of you are way too young, you don't even know, or you never seen overhead projector is. Let me show you what it is. This is the overhead projector. When I was little, my school teacher usually used the overhead projector when they're teaching classes. So basically how it works is usually the school teacher will prepare some sort of layout, either printed or you can actually just writing things down on a single plastic of sheet. So on this plastic sheet, the person can just writing whatever they do and put on here, and the lighting is gonna come down here and project that and mirror it up, so you can see what's going on. So how I remember this, I seeing this as a layer concept. You can pile up multiple layers on the top of these projectors, just like what we're doing here. So this is the very basic image that we having on our projectors. And if we're adding a new layer, just gonna go down here, click that, nothing changes on here, because what's happening here is we're adding a one sheet of absolutely transparent things over top of this layer. You don't see the differences because nothing on there. So if I hit the B, go to the brush tool, so you can see here the shortcut is giving to you is B, then I can just simply draw a color. Right now you can see here our selected color is green. I just use my mouse and right click, I can draw a line. So this is like what I'm drawing. It's basically on this transparent sheet of plastic. If I'm actually click this little eye icon, it can showing is the visibility control of this layer. So I can just kind of close it and open it. It doesn't really matter. This is the same concept when we're using Blender. It's called a non-destructive workflow. So if I'm not using this layer, I still can draw things on green lines on the image, but it's going to destroy the actual image. That's why every time when you load in an image, it directly locked sometimes. It just lets you prevent you to kind of destroy the original image. So what I would do here, I'm going to copy this image by holding Alt and just drag down so I can have a copy. Then I can just make it invisible. And then what I can do here, if I'm select the top layer and I hit the B again, if I'm drawing it, now if I'm enable this layer, it's gonna come with the actual image. So you can't do anything if I hit the E key to kind of erase. This is like the eraser, but if I erase that, that is gonna destroy the actual images with this line. So this is not what we want, right? So what we really want is having the image and having an additional layer on the top of it. So if I'm using the eraser tool and selecting on the top of the layer, so I can erase it out, right? So this is what you want to do, because you have fully control and what's going on and you're not damaging the actual image file. We can continue to do more advanced and detailed local adjustment. That's the advantage of using layers, okay? So this is what we want to do. Next thing I want to talk about is called layer mask. So think about it. I have something going on here, right? And I can even actually make my brush bigger by holding Alt and just right click and drag. So you can see here, I can control the brush. This is another set of shortcuts in Photoshop. You can choose the memorize, where you can actually changing all these size and the hardness over here. It just takes longer, but the more you work inside of Photoshop, these shortcuts is going to be their second nature. Okay, so I hit Alt, right drag, and then make it bigger. And if I'm moving up and down, so I can make it the edges go harder and soft. Okay, so that's how it works. Now I'm just going to draw a big green spot right here. So this thing has been covered up in this image. And now what a layer mask it does is, think about it, it's a mask. So it basically means it's gonna cover something. So if I'm going down here, you see this tiny icon here. If I'm click this, you will see there is another thing generating next to this green spot. This is called layer mask. But right now, this layer mask is showing white. When the layer mask is showing white, it means to review everything. That's why when adding a layer mask, and you don't see any difference because the layer mask is white, it's reviewing everything on this layer. So if I'm going to hit Control I to invert this layer mask, Control I, it's going to showing a black. And then all these green spot is being gone, right? So which means everything's being covered on this transparent layer plastic thing. We have some content on there, but we have a layer mask to cover it up. So it means this entire layer doesn't really make a difference onto the actual image. So you may ask, well, Wenbo, why do we need to have a layer mask? Well, this is the beautiful part of having this, is we can, utilizing the mask, we can draw something to the mask and to do other different things. If I'm going to hit B and then going to draw a different thing, and right now you can see when I'm selecting the layer mask, there is the differences between selecting the layer, selecting the mask. If I'm selecting layer, you can see the color we're using the green. And right now, if I'm going to the mask, you will see the default color is the white and black. Again, white means review, black means cover, right? So if I'm drawing white on the black layer mask, it's going to reviewing what's going on this layer. If I'm going to hit Alt and right click and drag to make the actual brush is a little smaller, so I can do this, and then I'm going to just simply draw a couple lines here, so you will see what's happening. Pay attention, I'm drawing a white on the mask, but this is going to showing on green. See, that's what's happening. If I'm drawing something on the white over here, beyond this kind of green area, there's nothing happens, right? It doesn't mean I didn't draw anything. You can see here we have a white spot right here. We did something, but however, we are not affecting anything because all these masks is controlling the content on this layer. So this is how layer mask works. Here is another really useful shortcut. It's going to hit Shift and left click. I can temporarily disable the layer mask and showing what this layer content looks like. So it's just a big green spot. So we can do that. We can quickly toggle it on, shift left click, we can do so. So this is very convenient to use for the layer mask. The more we're doing this, you will realize, well, having layer mask is very, very powerful. Later on, we will have more advanced adjustment. We're going to creating a groups of layers and put it in there, and we can adding a layer mask for the entire group, okay? And then we can even do something even further than there. So on the group layer mask, like what I did, I can actually drawing another thing. If I hit the B2 and hit X to kind of reverse the color. So this time I wanted to draw black. So I can just draw on the group layer up here, and it actually kind of covered up what's over here within this folder. It doesn't matter how many different colors you have, you're going to control by that no matter what. And that's what the layer mask works for the group. So we will have some more examples and actual practice when we're dealing with case study later on, but I want you to be aware to understand what is layer mask and what is the layer mask concept works. Okay, so that is pretty much the main point of having a layer mask inside Photoshop. Here's another thing, it's called clipping mask. So let's go with another layer, adding a absolutely transparent one. So I can choose a different color. I can just do a red and getting a big brush, hit B and then Alt, right click and drag that. And I can just kind of drawing it. You notice that when I'm drawing this, because the group layer mask is controlling the entire thing. If I'm going to hit Shift and left click, disable the layer mask for the group folder, see what's happening. It's showing the red and green. However, the order is a little bit wrong because the red one have covered more space in this image and the green one is actually smaller. They're both supposed to be showing, but order actually matters. So if I'm click the green one, if I'm dragging on the top of the red one, so it actually show what's happening. Okay, so the order is really important in Photoshop. In Blender, when we're dealing with collections, the order doesn't really matter. But inside Photoshop, it matters a lot. This is something I want to emphasize. Okay, another interesting thing is I'm going to move this red one on the top of the green one. And then next, I'm going to disable the layer mask on this green layer. Shift, left click, and you will see, oh, we have some green layers on the bottom part showing because there's only small amount of the colors being overlapped. So you can see with both of these colors invisible. The next thing I'm gonna do is gonna select the top red layer, hit the Alt key. You can see here, if I'm moving my mouse cursor right here, you will see there's a tiny square with an arrow on. So that's going to showing you can actually left click and to make it called clipping mask. So what that clipping mask means, it's going to showing you what's happening here when they actually being overlapped with. Right now, what are you seeing is still two different colors. However, the red part is only showing within the green layer. I know, maybe sounds a little bit confusing, but this is how it works. The green layers is basically right now is controlling the overall range of what the red can be displayed. I know the red originally have a little bit more color to cover over the green one. However, right now it's being fully controlled by the green areas. Okay, so if I'm hitting Alt and moving here, unclipping it, so you will see this is how much is the red. And if I'm going back again in here, this is what they're being controlled by the lower layer. And if I'm disable the top layer, you will see this is actually how much the green layers is being showing or visible. This is just a small feature that you'll be seeing how I'm utilizing this feature later on in the case study. But I want to let you know this is available. This is called clipping mask. Okay, a quick recap for this video. We understand what is Workspace and how to load Workspace inside of Photoshop, and also an understanding general concept of what is a layer mask, and a clipping mask works inside Photoshop. And this is everything I want to share in this video, and I will see you in the next one.